Yeah, so I'm trying to explain SAP introduces solution for utility domain, and the solution name is SAP ISU CCS. Now, when it introduced the SAP ISU CCS, it is not created the base. The base is already there. And on the top of that base, they introduced the new modules. The whole solution is on top of that base. So what exactly they do, they are using the R3 or core solutions. And those core solutions they are using, like you can say, what is the core solution? So mostly the core solution means which are already there. If you say SDMM, FICO, those are we call the core solutions, which are already there. So SD means sales and distribution, material management, MM, PM, plant maintenance, SM, service management. So you can see here, so these colors, PM and SM, plant maintenance, service management, SD, sales and distribution, FI, finance, these are already there. On top of that, we introduce new modules like meter and device management on top of work management. So work management is coming from PM and SM. So work management is actually there. Some part of PM and SM they combine and they create it as work management. Similarly, meter and device is on top of work management. Similarly, we have marketing and sales. Marketing and sales is coming from ST, sales and distribution, and there is another segment called customer services. And okay, there is a segment called services as well. So those they combine and marketing and sales they introduce. So CS and CRM is there, and on top of that you have marketing and sales. Similarly, installation services is coming from SM again. Consumption entry, consumption billing and services. Now billing and services they are bringing from SD, sales and distribution. Invoicing is part of SD and part of your um, finance. So they combine that and they introduce a new model called invoicing. At the top, for the customer services and information, they introduce CIC or customer contract CS and customer services. So these are the modules. If we go in depth, we can see the what they introduce actually. The whole process started as a ERP solution. Now you know ERP is a concept. Enterprise resource planning is a concept which is introduced um, after the First World War, and because of the ERP, each of the organization is enhanced their efficiency level. And there are multiple ERPs, like in this current market, there are many ERPs. SAP is one of them, which has around 92% of market share. At a certain point, it has 98% of market share, but with time, there are other ERPs come and they're taking over the some market like MS Dynamics is there, Oracle Ops is there, Salesforce is there. Um, okay, so those are there and they are taking over little bit market. Now SAP has a solutions. Many solutions are there. One of the solution is for utility called ISU. Now this solution has different modules: customer services, device management, EDM, billing and invoicing, FICA, internet self services. Now all these services has advanced modules as well. Like DM advanced model is EDM, billing invoicing advanced model is RTP, FICA, there is BRF plus is there. And then internet self services um, is linked to these days to your own websites. So web services, we call them web ICE services. Then CS is obsolete. Instead of CS, we are creating a new box called CRM. So all these are now advanced. So basically, if we see in depth, so the initially, okay, no, these are the introduction of all these modules. Yeah. So if we see in depth, we can see there are different modules which are core modules. So on top of this core module, we have new modules which are introduced under Yes, so the base is your core modules, which is you can say ECC modules. On top of that, we have a small circle, which is your all your modules in SAP ISU, DM, billing, invoicing, FICA, customer services. All these modules are integrated through a common component. We call them business partner, right? So that's how this is integrated. Any question on this SAP integration module structure?
No.
Okay, so I didn't say what is AM. AM is asset management. Okay, so that's how the first session. If you know questions, then we can move to the next session. So now what happened here? This is the history. So this history is a bit old. So how the SAP used to come into picture? So into 1995, it started in Germany, and slowly it was enhanced and implemented after 99. There is a solution called Ariba. Now that Ariba solution is again particularly created for utilities, and it become SAP ISU. Now that SAP ISU is enhanced by now, and with the introduction of S4 HANA, now it is called SAP ISU S4 HANA. The good thing is that with S4 HANA, there is not much change in SAP ISU functional segment. There are changes into the finance segment, but not much change in DM, billing, and FICA. Finance means FICO. There are changes in FICO. They have different release like HANA 1902, 2002. It started from 1702. 17 is the year and 02 is the version. And that's it is going on. So HANA is there, but SAP is not yet introduced anything specific for SAP ISU. They introduced a segment called SAP ISU S4 HANA Delta, which is not for practically functional people. It is for basis people. You know, in SAP, we have different people. Like, uh, you know already, all of you are working in that, right? So in SAP, we have 5 type of people. If I'll create a notebook. Okay, so uh, I'll give you the servers like once we'll come into the uh, uh, regular classes. Okay, and are you enjoying, or should we go to the next session and discuss, or it's okay for the day?
Um, we can go to the next session.
Okay, next. Great. So let's go to the next session and we can have some more discussions. Okay, so as we discuss SAP ISU. Okay, sorry. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So in we have different modules, and as we have different type of consumers, different modules. So those modules need some kind of structure, because we cannot put all the information randomly. So we need a structure, how we can assign the whole business into a structure. Now, when we say a structure means a data structure, and when we map this to our day-to-day life and to our value chain, you can recollect the value chain. In the value chain, you can see there are some people who are getting services from a company. Now, those people are living somewhere, some villages or some town area, and they are living in a house. So, SAP ISU create a house and they called it SAP ISU house. Now this is SAP ISU house, which is mapping it's to the SAP ISU components. Now those components would be useful for our day-to-day uses of SAP. Now how it is useful and how they are mapped. Now who is living there, who is getting the services, we called him business partner. Okay. So the business partner may be a individual person, maybe a company, maybe any legal entity who has the legal identification. So that is the business partner. Now, business partner, how they will deal with the utility company. So how they will pay, or if they will not pay, what is the condition? If you will pay less, what are the conditions? No, these things are there. So that means how the financial transaction will happen between the business partner and the company. Those rules we maintain somewhere, and that is your contract account. Okay. So the account basically holds all the financial transactions. Even if your taxation, even if the company whom the business partner is paying, how they will pay to the government, so that tax part, as to which company the person has to pay. So those details are there in the contract account. Now this person need to get the services. Under which condition it will get the services? That means it has to create a agreement with the utility company. And that agreement we call the contract. The contract is the agreement between the business partner and the utility company. Right. So what are the conditions? The basic condition is at what tariff he'll get the services. From which date he has to get the services. Till which date he has to get the services. Okay, what are the services he is looking to get? Okay, so all these agreements are there into the contract. Now these three things, business partner, contract account, and contract, we call them as business master data, BMD. Whereas where he is getting the services, like which location he is looking to get the services. So that location or that land or that apartment or that place we call the connection object. Now connection object is the whole building. If you consider the apartment is a whole apartment, and in that apartment where he is staying or living, that we call the premise. Okay, or premise, or any apartment we call the premise. And inside that premise, where exactly the device going to be installed, that we call the device location, whether it is at the kitchen or at the hall or at the entrance, so basement, where, so that is your device location. Now, these are physical stuff. Now, what is the rule, how it will get built, in which area it will be get built, and in how many frequency it will be get built, whether he will build monthly, daily, or yearly. So those kind of stuff we are putting into a logical centralized component. We call that installation. So installation is a logical centralized component which will hold all these informations. And when we do a agreement, we do a process called move-in, and when the move-in will happen, the BMD and other information, which we call the TMD, they will integrate. So basically, the BMD is BP, contract account and contract, and the TMDs will be for other stuff, installation, device location, premise, and connection up. Okay. Now, when we create these things, we have to pass some information. So all these are objects, and objects need some parameters to get activated. So let it be business partner, and business partner has two specific two type of roles. One is we call the specific role, other one we call the basic data. So what is the basic data? The name of the person, the address of the person, and the communication detail of the person. So these are the basic data. What is the specific data? So when we go in depth, we can create the relationship between business partner to business partner and those relationship types. Then if the business partner want to pay direct from the bank details of that business partner. If it is a biller direct means they already paid or invested in your organization, or there's somebody who is getting the benefit of the organization. So biller direct will be happen, and so he will build and he will get the money direct from his bank account, or it will be get adjusted. Then additional data like details, identification numbers, legitimation. So additional data means like your legal document which will get uploaded into the system, like your Aadhaar card, passport, lot of stuff are there which can show you that this is a legal entity. So no, these things are there, and either we need to activate all of them as the mandatory fields, or we activate some of the fields are mandatory fields. Then we proceed with the contract account. As I mentioned, the contract account is dealing how the business partner will do its financial transaction. Now, in this case, we have to be mention some general data like account name, legacy system name, terms of payment. Terms of payment, like if there will be invoice come within how many days it has to pay. Tolerance group. Tolerance group means the company, it will be create a invoice of 100 rupees, 50 paisa, but the person is paying 100 rupees, whether it will be considered as full payment or there will be a part payment consideration, or it should close that invoice or not. So that tolerance group would be there within 1 rupee. If the tolerance group is there, then that invoice will be get closed. So that is the tolerance group. Then control, alternative bill receipt. Let it be they give another address where they want to get the bill receipt. Paid by the collective bill account. So now collective bill is another concept where we have a single contract account which will link to the multiple contract account, and all the collection will happen to the collective bill account. So those things are there. Additional bill. Additional bill means duplicate of the bill. So that also communicated to another person, or if something is missed. So if you invoice get account assignment, like uh, if there are multiple elements of invoice which need to be get clear first, so we create a priority of that. That is called clearing category. Then into which, uh, like general ledgers are books in which the amounts need to be entered if there will be any transaction will happen. So which general ledger need to be linked to this contract account, that will be defined by the account determination ID. So account determination need to be there. Planning groups always there. It is help to the contract account if somebody is not able to pay, then we are providing some kind of plan to distribute their load into different months. So those planning rooms also there where used to the list. That means the company code, all those details. Similarly, if somebody will not pay, okay, first was if he is a good person is paying. If he will not pay, what will the processes the company will take? Now that is called dunning. Dunning means warning. So now Dunning has its own Dunning control when it should be get executed, after how many days if the person is not paying. Dunning letter receipt. So what are the labels of letter they has to pay? They has to send to the consumer. Like Dunning letters means first letter would be like requesting letter, second letter would be the harsh letter, third letter would be the legal notice letter, fourth would be the disconnection letter. Like that, they have multiple letters. So they has to send to the consumer. Dunning block region. Now, if there is somebody come and they say No, whatever the invoice you sent, that is wrong, and it should be it, on that invoice, the dunning should not be applied like that. Then you can put a lock. So dunning will be not applied that consumer like that. So incoming payments, um, how the payment will come, from which bank it is coming. So that those details would need to be there. So incoming payment and outgoing payment should be monitored through the contract account, because based on that we apply the taxations. And finally, if it is a bill direct, how the amounts are adjusted or payments are made. Similarly, contract data, like as I mentioned, contract data need details. What are the details? It need which kind of services we need to provide. So that will come from the division, whether it's electricity division, gas division, water division. So division will define which kind of services they are looking for. Obviously, company code, because company code linked to the contract account and linked to the contract or the agreement. Individual operation, then like if there will be consumption, what is the initial consumption during the starting of the point that we need to capture during the creation of the contract. Statistical groups are there which will put the values not into GL, but statistically to hold the values for the historical region. Then we need to start date, which is we call the move-in date, end date, which is we call the move-out date, schedule data. Schedule data is like if there would be any kind of we call them budget billing. So when it should start, when it should end. So those schedule data would be there. But most of this scheduling will happen through MRU. Then whether it will be joint invoicing and is we should stop the billing block controls are there, outsorting groups also there at the contract level. So these are the general data for the contract. Apart from that, we also supply the cost center business area if required, because from there we understand from where the collection will happen. And if there would be any budget billing plan, budget billing cycle, that also we pass here. And if it is a deregulated market, so definitely we have to provide the service provider details and who is the providing the invoicing. That means your retail service provider. So that is also we pass. External contract numbers, it is required if there is some paper agreement and that need to be uploaded. So those things would be there. And obviously the payment class, whether the contract is a commercial contract or a domestic contract, because based on that, again, your taxation will differ. So these are the contract details. So any question from the business partner, contract account and contract data, because these objects are very important for master data. And as I mentioned, they create the BMD, business master data, and after that, we link them to the TMD, technical master data. Any question on the BMD? Yes, no, all good.
No, sir. No question.
Okay, great. So technical master data, what we'll do probably next session, we'll start the server, like everything I'll show you in the system, and that will be helpful to understand in more detail. Technical master data, starting from the connection object, you can say the whole building is your connection object, then premise, your apartment, then device location where you put the device, and installation is a logical unit where we put everything which are related for billing and invoicing. And we'll put all these area details like from MRU, the scheduling details, and from there we can execute the billing process. Okay. So connection object, basically it was coming from PM, plant maintenance. So as we understand, we have core modules. So one of the core module is plant maintenance, and on top of that, the DM is there. So from plant maintenance, we get the PM, which is generally um, we call it connection object, and that connection object is uh, linked to a superior location. So that is called premise. And in premise, it's you have to mention the multiple floors, room number, who is the owner, and premise type, all those details. And then once you have premise, you can create the installation. Now, installation, as I mentioned, is the centralized location where we put everything. Uh, like majorly, we are putting the billing details, okay, because we are using rate category at the installation. And rate category holds the billing schema which will hold the billing engine, and that defined how we'll calculate the billing. So that's how the billing rate category is there. Rate data for device need to be there, because without rate data, we cannot get the rate. So all those billing informations are there at the installation. Those are very important. Then we have to maintain the regional structure, which is coming directly from MRU. So there is a master rate MRU, meter reading unit. From there, it is linked to the street routes, and those street routes link to your address. Address is linked to your connection object and business partner. So that's how they are integrated. Apart from that, we have other things like premise, uh, because it defines in which premise we are doing the billing, your consumption control, then the installation types. So installation types are linked to the industries actually. So there are options to pass which type of installation it is. It is for the like floor mill, or it is for a big industry like that. Okay, so now after creating the BMD and TMD, we can integrate both of them through a process called move-in. And through move-in, we are integrating the BMD and TMD, and the contract get created. Now the contract is not created through T-code, but when we do the process of move-in, it will get created. So once the move-in is done, your BMD and TMD will be getting integrated, and your whole master data will be fulfilled. And the SAP ISU house is formed in your system. Okay. So if you go in depth and we see, so you can see business partner, contract account, and contract is there. And similarly, we have connection object. It will link to the premise installation, and then we have device location and device. Apart from that, we have connections from the suppliers. So as I mentioned, at the contract label, we have to provide the service provider name and who is providing the invoices. Okay, so invoice service provider. So one service provider is billable, other one is just non-billable service provider. Now they are integrated and they are linked to a point called POD. POD expand as point of delivery. Point of delivery where the service link will be over. So POD is linked to a point called grid. Grid actually coming from the distribution network. So your grid is, to recollect, there is a distribution network and it linked to the consumer. So the grid is from the distribution network, and from POD onwards, it is the uh, consumer end. So the point where the service providers authorization or jurisdiction is over and the consumer jurisdiction starts, that we call the POD. So from POD, the jurisdiction of consumer will start and it linked to the installation. And finally, the POD has to link technically to your connection object through the connection. Okay. Now that connection is indirect actually. It is not directly you can see. Indirectly you can see that connection, and through that it will be linked to the installation. Now if we see the POD, POD is used for deregulated market. And PODs are of, again, of different types. But basically, if we will go there a little bit further, like when we uh, complete all these things, then we'll proceed for deregulation market. We understand that. But PODs again, have different data need to be passed to them, and it is mostly used for the deregulation. And for deregulation installation, we have to link the POD to the installation. Otherwise, the installation will not get created. Then once we create the POD, it has header. We have to define the type of POD, um, the role of the POD, okay, whether it's virtual or actual, types of POD, technical POD or your functional POD, and point of delivery ID. So each POD will define with the country, grid, and location. There will be ID get generated that would be unique. So mostly in deregulated market, the number of POD ID is unique number and it cannot be duplicated. So from the POD number, we understand who is the consumer and the address of that consumer. And if there will be any services we need to provide to that POD. Okay. But in a regulated market where the POD is not in use, we are using installation or connection object. So any questions? Okay. Any questions till now?
No, sir.
Okay, great. So let's expand the structure again further. Now you can see ISU components. All these are ISU components which are in purple color, but there are some components which are cross-functional. The business partner is already there. So in SD, there are customers and vendors. And business partner identification is done through the address, and that address is coming from the regional structure. The regional structure is nothing. It provides the address and uh, and identification to the business partner. Now, the legality will be provided by the document for that business partner, whereas the address is provided by the regional structure. Now, regional structure is also providing the address to the connection object. So without address, we cannot create the business partner and connection object. So they are interlinked to the regional structure. So regional structure again is divided into, there are three kind of things in a regional structure: postal regional structure, then you have a geographical regional structure, and you have the organizational regional structure. And we combine them and create a common regional structure. And that will be helpful for linking the business partner and connection object. Whereas you can say device category is uh, used to create the device, and that is nothing but your materials. So material, it is coming from material management. And the maintenance is happening through plant maintenance and customer services and SD sales and distribution. So you can see green and yellow is everywhere because they are linked to the logistics. Okay. So now our uh, model, our SAP ISU house is bit expanded, and they are added the regional structure, they are added the services, point of delivery, and they added some device category and devices which are again coming from the cross-functional applications like plant maintenance, SD, and MM, material management. So this is it for the day. All these things, whatever we discuss now, they are integrated to a common platform. We call that CIC, Customer Interaction Center. And this Customer Interaction Center is linked to the CS, Customer Services. Now, Customer Services is used by the front-end people. What they do, they create the screen or they design the screen to monitor and extract the information about the consumer. And through that, they can give the information to the consumer. It can be customized based on the requirement of the user. And that's how we create the customization. Now, as a DM and billing invoicing guy, we don't need to understand how it get customized, but we need to understand what they are expecting. They are expecting some identifications, some functions, some navigation, and they have all these things in an action box, and they need to integrate that to the objects what we discuss. So whatever we discuss, that need to be flowed to them, because the business partner or the consumer always asking for the information, and how the information will go. The information will go from the any agent, what would be call center agent, or any agent will flow that information to the consumer. But how they will get that uh, information from the backend, and that backend they cannot directly access, so they will access the CIC display screen. So what exactly happening? So this CIC screen directly can be accessed by the business partner or through the agent. And the business partner uh, linked to the any kind of system, okay, whether it would be linked to some later, some IIS, IIS means Internet Self Services, and through a workflow, through a workflow, it get confirmation that yes, he is a valid business partner. Once he is a valid business partner, then the access will go towards the CIC screen. Now, in between that, there is the executive who will check the workflow, monitor the workflow, and obviously, if something is going within his capability, he will send those information later facts to the consumers, and they can get the all the information. Or else he will move to the customer center or CIC screen and get all the information and pass to the business partner. So that's how they get integrated, and this email fax get integrated. And obviously these days there is a auto caller concept, and there are auto email concepts are there. So instead of agents, the robots are working and they are sending the information to the consumer. So they have basic rules. They have to identify the customer. They have to collect the information. They have to check the necessary front office processes. Then they will log in and they will collect the information for the consumer, and then they will pass to the customer. So the customer is called, if there is a process, whole process they have to go through. And once their job is over, they have to close that and send the notifications. So whether it's a meter exchange, or you can say there would be some kind of meter adjustment, all those things will be come through your customer services to the ground staff, to the SD check, because the feasibility, the commercial part will be done through the SD. So basically, there are customer, consumer, there are agents or customer service employees, then there is a backend which will provide the estimation, then there are field people who are technician. Once everything is done, then your bill agent will send the bill details, and once that is done, then final notification will be sent to the consumer, everything is well and good. So this whole cycle will be common for any kind of services we provide to the consumer, and it is done through the screen called CIC screen. Okay, so that's how it is for the day. Um, and this customer overviews we can get through all the master data, whether it's a business partner, contract account, account balance, budget billing amount, bills, historical consumption value, or content overview. Anything, if they will give, you have to be very smart that you extract the information of that consumer. Okay, so any question for the day?
Yes, my question is how would I get the recording videos and notes?
I'll send after the session, I'll send the recording videos.